What's up guys, it's askpRoy. Welcome back to my channel. My first video before this one was about my pregnancy story. So if you're interested in knowing about pregnancy, my pregnancy in particular, you can go check that out. I'm going to talk to you all about my labor and delivery, which is a natural birth story. 40 weeks came. I'm gonna start at 40 weeks because that's where you typically start, right? 40 weeks came and I was still very pregnant. We did not know the gender of the baby. There was nothing that we could really do to speed up the process because I wanted to have the baby naturally. I didn't want any type of inductions or anything like that. So we just waited. So 40 weeks came and went. 41 weeks came and I had to go see my midwives for an appointment, mandatory appointment. Just to make sure that the baby was okay, to make sure I could continue to keep going without any interventions. As a matter of fact, that day, I'm going to start the day of. That day, I started with a 2-mile walk. And that was just try to get the baby going, try to get myself going, keep myself active. Went to the midwives. The midwives did a stress test on me, a non-stress test. Everything was fine. I did ask them to check my cervix. This was my first time getting my cervix checked throughout my whole pregnancy. I did not ask them to, you know, fidget up there before. I didn't need to, right? My mucus plug hadn't come out or anything like that, so there was no reason for them to try to figure out what was going on. So I did ask them to do that. So they checked my cervix. It was closed, completely closed, shut all the way. No openings whatsoever. So I knew I wasn't having the baby in that moment. But what the midwife did tell me is just because you're closed up right now doesn't mean that you're going to be closed up in a few hours from now. You could have this baby today. You never know. Just go home, relax, take care of yourself, don't stress, continue to do what you're doing, and we'll see you back at 41-3. When I typically say 41-3, most women do not come back at 41-3. They have their baby before then. I'm like, all right, cool. So I go home around 8 o'clock. I start getting some light cramping, and I do get some, you know, some blood showing. When you have your cervix examined, sometimes you do get blood from that, just because something's been fooled with up there, so you get blood. So I'm like, all right, it's from my cervix, I'm cool. But then I start getting some mild contractions, and they felt just like menstrual cramps. Of course, that's what they tell you, right? They tell you that it feels like menstrual cramps, and it did. Felt like light menstrual cramps. So started getting those, but I didn't think too much of it. So those were coming about every 8 minutes. Okay, nothing to worry about, correct? That night, I still was getting them. Like, they were getting closer now, about every 6 minutes. And they pretty much stayed within a 6-minute range. So I was able to rest, but I definitely was still feeling those contractions, and I knew they were coming. But I rested as much as possible. I was able to sleep through the night. There was one time at night where I did get up and I found out that my mucus plug had come out. And I was like, okay, well, this could mean that I'm about to have this baby soon, or it could mean that it's coming out and I still have a few days left to figure it out. So I didn't get my hopes up too high, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna relax and just breathe and take care of myself. So that's what I did. The next morning I woke up, it was a Monday, and I asked my husband to stay home because I didn't know what was gonna happen, and my mother was here as well, but for the actual labor part and the delivery part, I wanted my husband to be in the room with me and to be with me. So I wanted to make sure he was here and not having to go to work and try to come back and all that stuff. And he totally understood, so he stayed home with me. My contractions started going away altogether around the morning time. I went for a walked as much as I could, went to Target, did all types of everything that day. I ate food. I mean, you name it, I did it. I didn't stop. Life didn't stop just because this baby wasn't here. Yeah, that was that was that Monday. It was pretty uneventful until about 8 o'clock. and that's when my contractions started happening again, a little bit more regularly. I just knew in my spirit it wasn't right. So during that Monday, I've been talking to my photographer on and off. She's also a doula. And I was just talking to her, and I was just like, hey, you know, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. She was like, why don't you just call your midwife and ask your midwife what you should do? So I called my midwife, and they were just like, are you doing this? Have you done this? Are you seeing this? Okay, rest. Just rest. There's nothing you can do. You can't speed up the baby. Just rest. So that's what I did until about 8 o'clock. And that's when my contractions started coming a little bit longer and fuller. My husband took out the app, the contraction app that we have, and he started timing my contractions for me. They were teetering around the 6-minute mark again, sometimes getting as close as 4 minutes, but then going back down to like 7 minutes. So nothing consistent, but they were getting more and more intense. I could feel it, I could feel them just a little bit more heavy. So it's still a menstrual cramp, but it was just like a harder menstrual cramp. And I used to have very bad menstrual cycles until I switched to the Diva Cup, which you can see in another video that I talked about that. But I used to have very, very, very heavy menstrual cycles, so I was used to heavy cramps and just like all that cramping. And so it didn't bother me too much, but it got to the point where my contractions were about 2.5 minutes away from each other. And that was about 1 something in the morning. I couldn't rest like I did the night before. So I knew that when they started getting that close together, I needed to call the midwife. I was supposed to call her at 3 minutes when they were 3 minutes apart. But we had to make sure they were 3 minutes apart for an hour straight, you know, and they were. So when we got to the birthing center around 2:30 in the morning, my midwife met us there, my photographer met us there, and of course my husband drove me there. The funny thing is, when we were driving in the car, there was like a high-speed chase going on. I missed all of that. Not because I was in labor land, but because I was completely turned around in the car. So instead of facing forward in the car, I did not sit down. I was on my knees, pretty much like on all fours, facing the back of the car, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't pushing the baby back in when I should, you know, kind of be letting the baby come out. So yeah, the whole ride I was in that position and no other position. We get to the birthing center, and my midwife is drawing up a bath for me, actually getting the tub slash jacuzzi ready for birth because I wanted to have a water birth. So she did that for me. She also checked my cervix, which I was 8 centimeters dilated right when I got there. So we knew that the baby was going to be coming soon. I did throw up. That was the first thing I did, was throw up. Yes. Very proud of that moment, because that was the last thing I needed to do to make sure my whole body was cleared. Got in the tub, played my playlist. It was like some chill R&B. I'm talking like Mary, Aaliyah, very 90s, you know, driven R&B, like Maxwell. We chilling in there. I'm still going through my contractions. My contractions are a little bit better because I'm in water. My photographer's coming. She's taking pictures. She's like really helping me in the moment. My husband put up all the signs, the affirmation signs for us, and these affirmation signs said things like, just let it happen, your body was meant to do this, contractions will help your baby to come out. And I wanted to make sure that I continued to stay in a good frame of mind. This is something that I wanted. I knew I wanted to have my birth naturally. There was no way I really wanted to get an epidural. I also did not want to have a cesarean birth. So there were things I wanted to make sure that I just stayed focused and in the moment. I stayed hydrated. I continued to drink a lot of water. I made sure I was still eating. All of that was like a perfect scene. And then the nurse came in and she was taking all the vitals and stuff. My midwife had already started taking the vitals, so my nurse comes in and she's like coaching me through this. And I say, without my support system that I had in that room, I probably would have given up. But they were so good at keeping me encouraged. They told me how strong I was. They were like, you were so good. Oh my gosh, stay focused. Push, push, push. I mean, they were so good. Even my husband, so good. He was in the bathroom with me. Before I started pushing, you know, I was laboring for a while, and then it got to the point where I was just like, I think I need to push. I think it's time for me to push. I pushed crowning for 45 minutes because I was just so tight down there. And I mean, that's a TMI, but this is real. This is real, right? I was just so tight down there. I could not get the baby's head out. So whole time I'm in the water and I'm trying to get this baby out, and I'm pushing with all my might through all these contractions. And I mean, I'm like taking all of the strength that's inside of me and just pushing it out. I wasn't crying or anything. I still was cracking jokes. I still was very much myself. But, you know, it didn't feel good either. It wasn't the best feeling I've ever had in the world. It was very, very labor intense. Like, it was hard for me to have this baby. So I ended up getting out of the water for my last couple pushes. And the midwife first made me get on all fours to try to push the baby out. That didn't work completely, but it did help a lot. Also during that time, just like a little bit before then, when the midwife was trying to help bring the baby out, she actually punctured the water sac because my water still hadn't broke. So she punctured the water sac, which was okay, you know. It would have been cool to have the baby in the sac, but it was all right, you know, whatever. But that was just, that's when I knew my water had broken. So it was just a little bit of, okay, your water is broken now, you really gotta get this baby out. So I got on all fours, couldn't get the baby out that way. So I ended up having to get on the bed and pushing my legs all the way back. My last push, it was like, you need to push this baby out. And I pushed and they pulled and the baby came out, and they were like, Dad, tell us the sex, tell us the sex. And then my husband looked and he sat there for a second and he was like, it's a girl. And everybody was just like happy, and I started laughing because my husband thought it was a boy the whole time. And I just thought that was really funny that he saw a girl. It's funny to me. Oh, and after I gave birth to the baby, then I had to birth my placenta, which was easy because it was like right there. So they literally just like kind of stuck their hand in and got my placenta out. We left Scout and the placenta connected for the whole time that we were there, which was 4 hours. Yeah, it's another story. So for 4 hours, Scout pretty much was getting all of the nutrients from the placenta still. We finally cut her cord. Dad cut the cord and got all her vitals and everything. Of course, they kept pushing down on my uterus to make sure that it was contracting and getting all of that extra blood out. That probably hurt the most, hurt more than having the baby. To me, it hurt more than having the baby because the way they had to push on my belly. I actually used the bathroom before I left. Of course, it can't discharge you until you use the restroom, so I did use the bathroom before I left. They brought me a big old tray of food, like cheeses and crackers and apples and just like really healthy foods, and some water and all that stuff to have after I had the baby. So I got to sit there and just eat and relax. And of course, you know, we were taking pictures with the photographer, and my husband got to do some skin to skin as well. So the first thing I did was skin to skin. When the baby first came out, we did skin to skin, and she stayed there and laid on me, and she did a breast crawl towards my breast so that she could eat, which I thought was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life, because, you know, babies really can't move, but she was in the move to get that breast. She latched on really well the first time, didn't have any complications, and yeah, we stayed skin to skin the whole time. So I was skin to skin, then my husband did some skin to skin with her and allowed me to just kind of, you know, get back in the water and take care of myself, relax, get a little bath going on. I tore just a little bit, but not enough for stitches or anything like that. So they told me not to worry about it, and if I felt any real pains to let them know, and to, well, you know, we could see what we could do there. But I was okay. 4 hours later from me having my baby, we were discharged. And this particular center, you do not stay overnight. You just have the baby. Between 4 and 6 hours, you will get discharged and you'll go home. And so it was about 5 hours for us. We went home, and I walked to the car. I walked upstairs, brought my baby home, showed my mother my baby. That was her first time seeing her grandchild, her newest grandchild. She has 2 other grandbabies, granddaughters, but that was her first time seeing her grandchild, and it was just, it was awesome, man. It was awesome. But I was extremely tired, and so was my husband, and Scout was extremely tired as well. So we all took a nap, all went to sleep, and in 2 more days I had to go back to, you know, get all the other checkups and everything. But that is my birth story. I started laboring at home for 30-something hours, went in, had the baby, came home the same day, and it's just wild. It's wild to think of that. Like, I actually was walking after I had this baby, and I was up for a minute just talking to people because I was excited. I had a baby, guys. Oh, and I also got my placenta encapsulated. So I took my placenta. Once they cut the cord, they put the placenta in a cooler for me. I brought it home. The lady who does the encapsulation came to my house, picked it up for me, took it, did what she needed to do, and brought back everything the next day. So it was easy to get it encapsulated. Now, I haven't not taken any of my placenta pills. I don't think I plan to. The reason I got it encapsulated was more to do with any postpartum trauma I might have had, and making sure that I took that to see if that would help with any postpartum depression that I may have suffered from. But I didn't have any postpartum depression, so I didn't take any of the pills because I just didn't feel like I needed them. But I'm glad that they were there in case I did need them. I still have them in the cabinet. They're still up there. Yeah. But yes, I had a healthy baby girl, 8 pounds, 19.5 inches long, and she was perfect. Just the most perfect baby I've ever seen. I didn't have any drugs. I didn't have any inductions. I let birth happen. I experimented with different laboring techniques and positions. I focused on my breathing, but I did a lot of squatting. I did a lot of swaying. Like I said, I was laboring, like in active labor, for a while, but I knew that I could labor at home for as long as possible, and that was probably the best thing that I did. I labored at home for as long as I could before I went to anybody's anywhere to have a baby. So that is my labor and delivery story. I do have pictures. Some of you all have seen it. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you have seen some of those pictures floating around. I do have more pictures that are on my blog at askpRoy.com. If you would like to see those pictures, feel free to go over there. My photographer's name was Monet, and she was absolutely amazing. Just amazing photographer. If you see her on Instagram, it's Monet Birth Stories, and she has the most phenomenal pictures. She has such an eye for birth photography. It's just amazing. Also, I got my belly hennaed before 40 weeks because I thought that I was gonna have the baby at 40 weeks, clearly. Yeah, and I didn't have the baby at 40 weeks. So during my 41-week checkup, when they were doing my ultrasound and everything, the henna went away. It was just kind of washed away. So I didn't have the cool henna on my belly, but I did have a cool bra on, so that kind of, you know, settles each other out. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope I answered all of your questions. If I did not, you can leave all those questions down below. I'll be sure to check them and try to answer which ones I can. And until next time, fam, peace.